Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this meeting of full council. During the meeting today, I will be making rulings on process and conduct during the meeting and would ask council to abide by the standing orders and rules of debate. At certain times, I may seek guidance from my advisors, and should we need to adjourn, I will inform council of what is happening and the time for us to reconvene. We all enjoy robust, respectful debate. At the last meeting, there were words and actions that I would consider fell short of the standards we set ourselves. I would ask all members to ensure their words are respectful and behaviour is exemplary. If members' speeches run over time allocated, I will allow you to finish your sentence, but ask you to finish as quickly as possible. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind members that there is no local government equivalent of parliamentary privilege. Members will therefore be liable for any defamatory statements they make. If you wish to speak during the meeting, I would ask that you raise your hand and wait for me to invite you to speak. Please raise any points of order verbally. I will then pause the meeting to deal with the point of order. When raising a point of order, please state which procedure, rule or law you believe has been breached. All votes will be conducted via the electronic voting system today. If we receive any amendments to the recommendations before council today, I will adjourn to ensure that all members have adequate time to read the amendment. Thank you. I move to item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've apologies from Councillor Dan, Councillor Finn, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Patrick Nicholson, Councillor Sally Nicholson and Councillor Taylor.
Can I ask if there are any further apologies? No? Fine. I move then to item 2, minutes. I propose that we approve and sign the minutes of the meetings held on the 29th of January, the 8th of March, 2024, 8th of March 2024, 18th of March 2024, 17th of May 2024, and the 2 meetings held on the 24th of June 2024 as a correct record. Deputy Lord Mayor, will you second my proposal?
I second your proposal, Lord Mayor.
Does anyone wish to speak on this item? Move forward. I move to item 3 on the agenda, declaration of interests. Can members please make it known by raising their hand, please, if they have any private or disclosable pecuniary interests in any of the matters on today's agenda. My advisor will take a record of the interests declared.
Through you, Lord Mayor, before we take declarations, members will be aware there is an item on the agenda today from the Independent Remuneration Panel. The monitoring officer has issued a general dispensation for all members in respect of that item, so you will not need to make any declarations of interest in reference to that item. I'll start from my left for any other declarations. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, I have a private interest in item 16A, in as much as my employers are mentioned.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Are there any other interests? Councillor Mrs. Watkins.
Lord Mayor, I've got a pecuniary interest in 16B. I'm a pensioner and I've received a heating allowance for a number of years.
Through you, Lord Mayor, given the decision around winter fuel allowance is not one which lies with the Council, members will not need to make declarations in respect of item 16B because there's no material impact in terms of your discussions today.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Are there any further interests to declare? No, we'll move on. I'll move then to item 4, appointments to committees, outside bodies and council proportionality. Please could I ask Council to note the changes to committee membership in line with allocations as set out in the order paper. Deputy Lord Mayor, can I ask you to second the motion?
I second the motion, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak? No. Changes are noted. Thank you. Questions by the public. I move to item 5, questions from the members of the public. There are 17 questions from members of the public today. I would like to remind members that the Constitution limits the amount of time we spend on this item to 10 minutes. Any questions and answers not heard will be published in the minutes and a response provided to the question following the meeting. Question 1, the first is from Paula Boera. Would you like to ask your question?
Through you, Lord Mayor, Paula Boera is not here.
Right, thank you. Question 2, the second is from Nick Kelly. Would you like to answer your question?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. My question is to the Leader of Council, Councillor Evans. Councillor Evans, do you support and agree with the Chancellor and the Prime Minister in removing the £300 winter fuel allowance that will have a detrimental effect on thousands of pensioners living in Plymouth?
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Kelly, for your question. We are committed to ensuring that the residents of Plymouth of pension age are economically stable and able to heat their homes effectively during the winter. But we know that people are missing out on the benefits that they could be accessing to support them. To this end, we are supporting the government's campaign to ensure that everybody who is eligible gets support to access pension credit. This will also automatically passport them to receive the winter fuel payment. The winter fuel payment is worth £300 for households with someone aged 80 or over. Households with somebody aged between 66 and 79 will receive £200. They will also be eligible for Household Support Fund, which has been extended by the current government to support vulnerable households for the cost of essentials this winter. We are working with the Citizens Advice Bureau in Plymouth to contact people we know could be eligible for pension credit to offer advice and support on benefits, grants, and financial management. Alongside working with our partners in the voluntary and community sector, we are also offering a programme of outreach drop-ins where advisors are based in local community spaces. The timetable is available on our website, and council officers and our partners are helping to promote it. And I invite all members of this council to also help to promote it. If you get pension credit, you can also get other help, such as housing benefit if you rent the property you live in, winter fuel payment, as I've already said, support for mortgage interest if you own the property you live in, a council tax discount, a free TV licence if you are aged 75 or over. You get help with NHS dental treatment, glasses, and transport costs for hospital appointments if you get a certain type of pension credit. Help with your heating costs through the Warm Home Discount Scheme. A discount on the Royal Mail redirection service if you're moving house. Free bus travel and a bus pass. It is also worth noting that the new full state pension has already this year risen by £900, an increase of 8.5%, and is expected to rise again by £460 a year from April 2025. Now, this increase is pegged to wages, which have gone up by 4% this year. But of course, the triple lock, which was under threat under the previous Conservative administration, gives a 2.5% uplift, or an uplift equivalent to the average wage increase. So the triple lock was designed to ensure the value of the state pension was not overtaken by the increase in the cost of living or the incomes of working people. And the government has committed to keeping this until the end of the current Parliament. We want everybody to help to get the word out. We would encourage friends and families to help share the message and encourage pensioners to do a simple online check to see if they are eligible. And you can get help with filling in the form. There's no need to be intimidated by the number of questions. The helplines will help you work through it. There is updated information on the council website. We are sharing messages on social media and providing information leaflets with our staff and centres, including libraries and wellbeing hubs. Finally, we are also coordinating an Aging Well advice and information fair, promoting all types of services and opportunities that support Aging Well across the city, including advice and support regarding benefits, and that'll be on the afternoon of October the 4th at the Memory Matters Hub in the city centre. And again, I invite councillors, all councillors, to help promote that. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Question 3 is from Adrian Bridgman. Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is to the Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning and Infrastructure. The joint local plan calls for a high-quality restoration of the Palace Theatre. Potential investors are unwilling to buy the Palace and adjoining Great Western Hotel unless they know that their proposed uses will be approved. For what specific purposes will the Council allow these buildings to be used?
Thank you. Councillor Coker, would you respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman. The acceptability of any development proposal can only be determined through the formal planning process, planning applications. The local planning authority does, however, provide a comprehensive pre-application planning service to enable prospective purchasers and/or developers to obtain informal advice about the likely acceptability of proposals prior to submitting a formal application. Pre-application services can be tailored to the customer's need. It is strongly recommended that any prospective purchaser and/or developer contacts the local planning authority to obtain such advice. The Palace Theatre is a Grade 2 listed building situated in the Union Street Conservation Area. Union Street benefits from a specific policy in the joint local plan, policy PLY 34, which includes specific reference to the Palace Theatre. The policy states, the role of Union Street will be promoted as an urban street connecting the west of the city and linking the communities of North and West Stonehouse. It provides a mix of uses along its length, with high-quality building design and associated public realm improvements. Development proposals should provide for Section 4.2, a high-quality restoration of the Palace Theatre, appropriate to the special architectural and historical characters of the building that provides daytime as well as nighttime activity. Policy PL34 and other relevant policies in the JLP provide a framework within which a broad range of uses may be considered for the Palace Theatre, having regard to the heritage value of the building, the conservation area, and impact on local amenities and local centres. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coker. Question 4. Question 4 is from Grace Strickland. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question is, when is suitable bus service, street lighting and pavement being installed along Hayes Road and Merrifield Road to ensure that the safety of pedestrians when travelling to and from the new crematorium to attend funeral services?
Thank you. Councillor Coco, would you respond, please?
Thank you for your question. With regards to a bus service to the crematorium, I can advise that at present it is our understanding that none of Plymouth's bus operators are currently looking to provide a commercial bus link to the new facility. This means that any services would need to be funded by the council and become part of the tendered network. The council's tendered bus service budget is currently fully committed, and hence we're not in a position to financially support the bus link at the moment. However, opportunities to provide this link as a kickstart service in order to demonstrate public need for the connection will be kept under review as part of the ongoing review of all Plymouth's tendered network. With regard to the provision of a footway, the planning application for the crematorium number 1802088 full was subject to extensive consultation during 2018 prior to planning permission being granted in April 2019. Public consultations were held at various venues across the city, as well as consulting with numerous other organisations. Following the consultation, it is my understanding that planning permission was granted on the understanding that the crematorium site is not linked to the public footway network nor served by public transport, although at the time of the application, PCC indicated a willingness to review possible options for public transport provision in the future, should there be a recognised demand, and it was further considered that there could possibly be a potential leak onto a future path associated with the Sherford developments.
Thank you, Councillor Coker, and that ends the time for questions today. It concludes the questions, and any questions not dealt with will have responses forwarded to them. I now move to item 6, announcements. Association for Public Service Excellence. We are proud to announce that Plymouth City Council was shortlisted for several prestigious categories in the Association for Public Service Excellence Awards. Overall Council of the Year, Best Commercialisation and Entrepreneurship Initiative, Best Community and Neighbourhood Initiative, Best Innovation or Demand Management Initiative, Best Climate Action or Decarbonisation Initiative, Best Service Team, Parks, Grounds and Horticultural Service. Although we did not win this time, we should all join in a round of applause for the incredible work and dedication that led to these achievements. Let's continue striving for excellence and making a positive impact in our community. Right, I've now moved to a Long Service Award. Councillor Bill Stevens is celebrating his remarkable 25 years of service on Plymouth City Council. Throughout his tenure, he has been a steadfast advocate for the Devonport community. His contributions include significant roles such as reviewing the Constitution, participating in the scrutiny and audit and governance committees, and regularly chairing the Planning Committee. Under his leadership, the Planning Committee has been known for its objective and fair assessment of planning applications, ensuring balanced and equitable decisions for all stakeholders. Bill, will you please join me to receive your certificate? Leader and Cabinet announcements. Leader, do you have any announcements?
I do, Lord Mayor, I do. First of all, I would like to welcome several new members of staff to the council, because it's been a while since we were able to do some of this business, and a few things have happened since we were last able to do it. So could I start by welcoming to the council and in his place today, Karim Hassan, who's our interim director for strategic director for growth. I also would like to welcome Temilola Salomon, who's our service director for children and families, and finally Gally Wallbridge, who was our interim strategic director for adults and health and community, is now our permanent strategic director for adults, health and community. So could we give them a round of applause, please, Lord Mayor? I know what you're thinking. That means some people have left us, and that's absolutely right. First of all, Anthony Payne, who many of you will know, who's worked for us for almost 15 years as Strategic Director for Place. who has worked across a number of administrations in that time. I think come hell or high water might be a phrase that might be used in that respect. But Anthony came here, and there's been quite a few things going on. And I think it's important to recognise that the team that Anthony led, he has led and protected and advocated for, and they in turn have helped him to deliver a number of significant changes for us. So if we could talk about the regeneration of Devonport and the regeneration of North Prospect, Plan for Homes programme has been under his bailiwick, the box and the barcode, Royal William Yard, he secured the America's Cup, which we thought was quite a significant achievement, and of course that led to it being a springboard for a number of world-class events taking place in Plymouth. He was with us during the council's period when we saved Plymouth Argyle from administration. I know everybody talks about James Brent, and that's quite right, but actually this council played a pivotal role in capitalising the club at a time when it needed capital. Infrastructure proofing the city with the much loved incinerator at North Yard, and obviously the MRF at Chelston is important and still continues to be important. The economic regeneration of Oceans Gate, the Freeport, Plymouth Science Park, and of course the continued development of the council's commercial estate. We also have to thank Anthony for his leadership on net zero and also the inclusive economy work. And finally, of course, the being one of the few local authorities in the country to have a joint local plan. And that cannot be underestimated just how significant that was, because that's led to us bringing in millions and millions of pounds of investment over his time here. And I think it's fair to say that we wish Anthony a very long and happy retirement. I expect we'll see him quite a bit here in his new role, because he's not quite retired from working life, but it's very nice to have worked with him, and I've enjoyed his company and his counsel over many, many years. And Giles Perrott, again, Giles has been with us since about 2000. We interviewed him for a housing job, I remember. I still remember that interview when he, in a typical Giles thing, he said, what attracted you, to come to Plymouth? He said, I see it every night on the weather map. I still remember that now. It's a weird thing to say in an interview for the head of housing, but there you go. We didn't hold it against him, and he came. He came just on the cusp of a change of administration. We appointed him, and then we became a Conservative-led council. And that's been Giles's kind of joy over his career with us, really, of the metronomic change of administration, and as well as being a tremendous support to Tracy. I know she's enjoyed his support and his wisdom. Giles was a fixer, supremely intelligent, and a very creative solver of problems, I have to say. And we will miss his abilities immeasurably. I think there are so many people in this council who just don't realise just how much he did for us and how much he kept the wolf from the door. But his local government career didn't start in Plymouth. I mean, he's been a local government officer for 34 years. And his journey from carpenter to fixer at the highest level is an amazing one. So I know as well that partners were very, they enjoyed his he's worked with them immeasurably. And I do know that his ability to hold very difficult conversations with friends and foe won him plaudits right across the city and beyond. So we will miss him very much, and it's sad that his career ended in the way it did with illness. He deserves a long and happy retirement, and I hope the next few years are really kind to him. So with permission of the council, I'd like to give those two a round of applause, if that's all right. So there's some good news. If readers of the Daily Telegraph, I don't count myself as one of those. I'll be candid with you. But for those of you that do read it, must have been amazed to see that Plymouth has been regarded as the best place in the UK to live and work. I mean, we all knew this, but actually now it's been in the Daily Telegraph, it must be true. I mean, what this was all about really was our good growth and our inclusive growth, and the fact that since COVID, this city, driven I think in part by the work of this council's Economic Development Service, but also work of the Growth Board and partners, has seen an enormous recovery from COVID. I mean, since 2000, let's put these numbers out there, and when I first saw them, I didn't quite believe them. We had 6,000 new jobs created, and a 27% increase in the business stock in the city since 2020. We're the council with bounce back ability, and that is for sure, and the city with bounce back ability. So the league table that we've topped is of core cities, key cities, and major cities, so including Bristol, Birmingham, Oxford, Manchester, Leeds, Southampton, and Portsmouth. Are we better than them? You bet we are. Green jobs and flow. It was a big week for this last week. Tom was kind enough to open our second ever flow conference, floating offshore wind. 100 attendees at that, identifying opportunities that are going to come to this part of the world as a result of the projects in the Celtic Sea. And you'll notice in the last few weeks, Ed Miliband celebrating that this new Labour government had managed to turn around the disaster of the previous licensing of flow, with some 113 bidders for licenses for that work, in stark contrast to 0, I think, from the last disastrous round. Anyway, it's good news. ABP completed the initial stages of their £23 million investment in Mill Bay. There are people that didn't believe that it would happen, but actually the ABP have stepped up to the plate with a real solid program investment. The quayside strengthening is going to be fundamental to their business plan going forward. They believe that there's a real appetite and a real market potential for more freight coming in and out of Plymouth into their port, of course, and of course Catwater too doing their bit. The bit about Mill Bay and ABP though is really important because it's first steps as well to the decarbonisation of that port, and that'll be 2 years ahead of where they initially planned to do that. So that puts us right ahead of many parts of the country. We also hosted a senior delegation from Crown Estates. The Director of Strategic Development for them, looking at our role in supporting flow. To have Crown Estates involved in this is going to be really significant. They have money to spend, and they want to be working as well as with us. They want to be working with our marine higher education institutions and working with the Freeport as well. And we're hoping sometime in the course of the next few months to have a more formalised working agreement with them. Since the local elections, and I've not been able to tell you all of this before for the reasons that the Lord Mayor outlined before, that we've had a very series of short and sharp meetings. There's a few things have happened. The £25 million community diagnostic centre down at Colin Campbell Court has begun, which is fantastic. That's going to transform opportunities for locals, but also it's going to really help the health service. And I need to pay tribute to the dogged persistence of Councillor Mark Lowry, the one who has not let that go and has made it happen. And we all need to thank Mark for his work on that, as well as obviously the officers. The Derryford District Centre, we're handing over the units to Marks and Spencer's, Aldi, Pure Gym, Costa, Oggy, and Pets Corner, all to provide not just a shopping centre for the city, but a district shopping centre for a lot of people who live there who've had to spend a lot of time on the road to try and access those services in other parts of the city. That's a significant investment of £20 million in that. That's brilliant. We've completed £750,000 of shared prosperity projects. There's some amazing community projects in there and a lot of green jobs. And we've supported the city centre bid renewal. I was there along with a few other members of the cabinet on Friday morning where they have launched their renewal bid. It's important to say about the city centre company and the city centre bid, you know, this will be the fifth round for this if they are successful in getting a renewal of the bid. We're putting in £600,000. That's over and above what we pay in bid levy. But, you know, that brings a lot of money to the party. I mean, I was able to remind them that in the 5 years since the last bid round was done, we have secured £250 million worth of investment in the city centre area. And over the next 5 years, it's likely to be another £250 million of investment. That's serious investment, serious amount of confidence in the city. So please don't think any, you know, I know there's a lot of naysayers and doom and gloom merchants about, but actually the city centre has a future. It has a cunning plan, but also what it has is real investment, real money on the ground, providing jobs and opportunities. We've also awarded the contract for the largest ever direct development of Beaumont Way as part of the Freeport. That's going to be quite exciting as well. We've appointed a business planning consultant. Hold your breath now, because I'll tell you why. This is to support the reopening of the fish market, working with Sutton Harbour Holdings and the new fishing association. So we hope that that'll provide a plan for a reopening. That's what we want. They will be trying to make a business case for the reopening of the fish market. We've been working as well alongside the fishers to get their stuff to market in the meantime. We've offered the community 2,000 free sessions to get involved with the National Marine Park, and we've also appointed a new chief executive to the Mountbatten Centre. As our transformation, the Mountbatten Centre begins soon. This is money that we've secured through the Heritage, the Horizon Lottery project. Now then, I know you're all asking, what are you doing before Christmas, Tudor? I'm going to tell you. We're going to start work on brickfields with investment in community sports pitches in Plymouth Argyle's Academy. That's a £25 million investment in sport in the heart of the inner city, and it's brilliant. And people should be singing about that, because that is a fantastic thing, not just for Devonport, but for Argyle going forward. There's going to be new hockey facilities at Stoke Damerel. The refurbishment works at the Guildhall which you've seen the scaffolding now down and you've seen the quality of the finish on the outside. On the inside, we hope to have that project finished by June, and that will give us another opportunity for arts and culture in the middle of the city. The National Marine Park, well, we've started work on a Tinside Lido enhancements. Again, me and Tom were down there the other day. The opportunity, that first floor and the terrace under the colonnades is going to be absolutely fantastic when it's done. I mean, it's in a bit of a state, I'll confess, but it's going to be just such an asset. And getting young people down there for training opportunities. It's got the best windows in the whole of the city, the magnificent view out to the National Marine Park. That's going to be fantastic. And also, down on the left-hand side as you look out, there's going to be a youth facility down there. They were telling us that this summer they've got 350 young people already down at the waterfront learning how to do stuff, positive stuff. And in that facility, it's going to be a wet and dry facility for them. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be fantastic. Turning them into the marine citizens of the future and good citizens. We're going to start our innovation centre at Oceans Gate. And work will start on our hotel development at Embankment Road. That's, again, a Councillor Lowry special. Is that one? It's a while you've been working on that one. Yeah, he'll be all right. He'll be all right. I'm more optimistic than you on that. As I say, the net zero investment on shore power at Mill Bay is going to go ahead. This will be really significant. ABP, I want to do this, but I mean, there are many reasons for doing it. But the main reason as well is for Brittany Ferries, who in 2 years' time will have to have no diesel go in when they're in ports as part of the EU regulations. Now, we don't have EU regulations here, but they'll be decarbonising their ships. So we have to decarbonise our ships, otherwise they can't come in. And so it's a good thing to do. And that'll be fantastic. We're going to start demolition work at Tavistock Place around the box area. There's some buildings there that we've are going to bring down so that we've got some opportunities for more development in our cultural quarter. And we're going to complete our first ever port strategy and our first ever creative industries plan. And we're underway with a refresh on our economic development plan as well, as you know. We're also going to have some pretty big and exciting conversations with Homes England about city centre housing. Plymouth is quite unique among cities our size. Most cities of our size have about 8,500 people living in the city centre. We got about 850. So the potential for bringing people back in, because don't forget post-war we took people away, bringing them back in will be huge in terms of driving footfall into and oversight into the city centre. And then we're going to have a big conversation about Devonport Dockyard and the opportunities for the rest of the city as a result of that investment. I think it's fair to say, Lord Mayor, that we have not, even though we had a bit of time off for canvassing during the general election, this Labour administration has hit the ground running since we were elected again in May this year, and I commend the report to you.
Thank you, Leader. Do any Cabinet members have any announcements? If so, please make it known by raising your hand and I will call you to speak. Sorry. Right. Councillor Brydesdale.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As Councillor Evans has just shown, there have been so many exciting developments since the previous full council, but instead I just wanted to pick one that I think is particularly special. This time last week, our Cabinet signed off a new delivery approach for major heat networks for Plymouth. Heat is the largest user of energy here in Plymouth, accounting for nearly 30% of the city's carbon emissions. We simply cannot become a net zero city until we take bold action on that particular sector. In dense urban areas like we have here, heat networks are typically the lowest cost, low carbon option for heating. Rather than relying on fossil fuels, they redirect waste heat from local sources through a netground of underground pipes. Plymouth City Council has dipped a toe into small-scale district heating options before. What we proposed last week, however, is astronomically more significant. This long-term project could bring in approximately £350 million of external green funding to the city, 400 green jobs, annual carbon savings of over 30,000 tonnes, and a boost for clean air, which we know will help to protect our communities. The plans will split into two zones. The first around the south and west waterfront, which will utilise the South West Water Central Plant and Devonport Energy from Waste facility, and the second at Derriford, using waste heat produced by NHS Derriford's medical waste incinerator. I've suggested to scrutiny that we would welcome cross-party feedback this autumn. Other next steps involve submitting an ambitious bid to the National Green Heat Network Fund and to procure a national delivery partner. Whilst the first phase will focus on connecting major public buildings and businesses, our longer-term ambition is for the project to benefit local people, both in social housing and in housing more widely. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Aspinall, would you like to speak? And I give you a warning, we're down to 8 minutes. Thank you.
So no pressure then, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I want to bring everybody's attention to the fact that we'll be celebrating the International Day of Older People on the 1st of October. And for that, we've designed a nice little leaflet that says a lot of what's happening. I'll leave these around in the chamber so that you can look. But please make sure that you're telling people about them. Some of them are free, some of them there's small cost. But the thought of being able to, for over 50s, to be able to be engaged with swimming, Nordic walking, bowls, boccia. I've still got to find out what boccia is, quite honestly. You know, it's an exciting time, and it's a time for people to make friends and new acquaintances. The leader's already mentioned on the 4th of October, there'll be the afternoon at Memory Matters. So there's that one. And then I want to bring to everybody's attention Caring Plymouth. If you remember, we launched that last year, and now it's all to do with skills for the sector that deals with health and social care. And we've got a further day on the 19th of September, so later on this week, there's going to be an update and a relaunch of what we're doing. And then at the end, towards the end of September, we've got a launch pad live, which is over 2,200 young people will be at the Plymouth Life Centre on the 26th and 27th of September, and there'll be a dedicated zone there that they can hear more about the careers, etc., within the health service. And then, as I say, the leader's already mentioned the 4th of October at the Duke of Cornwall for more information. The skills sector in Plymouth, we need to keep our homegrown health workers going. And it's not just social care, it's feeding into University Hospitals Plymouth and all the job opportunities there are. So I'm hoping that you'll all be very happy to tell people about it, and we'll make sure it's on the website so that you can look and see. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Aspinall. Councillor Creswell, would you like to speak?
I'll be very quick. Following on actually from Councillor Aspinall, just to announce that our Launchpad Live annual two-day Future Careers event showcasing the range of opportunities available locally and promoting the city's key growth sectors is going to be running again on Thursday the 26th and Friday the 27th of September at Plymouth Life Centre. Over 50 employers and organisations will be taking part to showcase the city's key employment and growth sectors to over 2,200 students with attendance confirmed from Plymouth secondary schools, through interactive zones along with the latest immersive technology focused on marine engineering, manufacturing, health and social care, construction, the built environment, tourism, hospitality, retail, technical businesses, and creative services, as well as the armed forces, are emerging green and sustainable career opportunities, including, of course, as well, floating offshore wind. This event is being organised by Plymouth City Council in partnership with the YMCA, Plymouth Discovery College and City College Plymouth. And just briefly, two other things that I attended and launches of. One was the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and I've got lots of information I can give on that. And it was a great pleasure to be there with the Lord Mayor, and we were photographed with Dolly Parton. And the other brief one I just want to mention very briefly is that Plymouth received a grant of 1.246 million over a 3-year period to deliver the Early Years Expansion Programme. We had a launch on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we had a visit from the DFE Early Years Expansion Roadshow, including the Minister for Early Years, Stephen Morgan. And I just say what an absolute refreshing and encouraging it was to have a minister there actually listening to both early years providers and practitioners and civil servants as well, actually really listening and having their ears open. Very refreshing and a good opportunity of what might come next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cresswell. Councillor Lang, I believe you're next.
Thank you, and I hope you don't mind if I remain seated, Lord Mayor. I will be very quick. I've got a couple of announcements from other Cabinet members, and if I don't get to those, well, so be it. Because I want to tell you about this weekend's You Can Do It Awards, which took place on Friday evening and Saturday morning at the Crown Plaza Hotel. The You Can Do It Awards are our annual celebration events where members of the corporate parenting group and officers come together to recognise and celebrate the achievements of our care-experienced children and young people aged from 4 to 18. It's so important that young people are recognised for their achievements, and these awards are one of the highlights of my year. Over the two events, over 175 young people attended to celebrate their achievements, and in total over 1,000 nominations were made for these and for other young people's achievements. The presence of the Lord Mayor and the Deputy Lord Mayor, the warmth of the officers, the glamour, Jozzie's famous silent disco, the face painters and the legendary magic mirror all helped to create a very special energy and very special memories for everybody who attended, and to bring them and their guests back every year. We're now looking forward to the awards for our 18 to 25-year-olds, whose celebration event coincides with the National Care Leavers Week in November. I want to thank all those who sponsored or supported this event, especially the Permanency Service and the Virtual School, who consistently work so hard with our young people throughout the year to support them in their achievements, as well as the participation team who oversee and facilitate the events. And I personally want to thank councillors who gave very generously some of their community grant towards the cost of these events. And of course to all the carers and foster carers who bring their young people to join the celebrations. Have I got time still? No?
Well, quick.
I just wanted to update you about... Thank you, Lord Mayor. Summer at the Box. I thought you might like to know that over the summer there were 45,000 visits to the box. The new season exhibitions will be launched on the 18th of October, which will include Turners from the City's collection alongside works from the Tate. And I'm really pleased to announce that the Plymouth Art Weekender has secured funding from Arts Council England, so will again be taking place this year between the 18th and 20th of October. It's a citywide event organised by independent artists and art professionals, and is a great relaunch of something important for the city and the culture scene. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Right, so we will now move on to item 7, Provisional Capital and Revenue Outturn Report 2224. Councillor Lowry, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's that time of year where members are very excited to hear about finance, as they always are, Lord Mayor. And as you said, this is the Capital and Revenue Outturn Report for 2024. So this is ending of March this financial year. And just for context, because I appreciate we've got lots of new members here, this was a budget that was set by the previous Conservative administration in 2023, in February, and was amended by Labour to include an additional council tax charge for second homeowners in our city. However, the legislation was subsequently delayed by the Conservative government, so a majority of the amendment wasn't able to be fully enacted. So what do we have before us today? We have a balanced position, which of course is good news, and you will appreciate that it's a legal requirement for the council to balance its books. You'll also be aware that there are some considerable variances in last year's budget, and these are set out on page 46, table number 2. And many of you won't be surprised to hear that the variances relate to adult social care, children's social care, children in special educational needs, and homelessness, all of which have experienced a substantial increase in demand. And of course, Plymouth is not alone. Many local authorities across the United Kingdom are experiencing exactly the same. I can assure members that moving forward, our officers and Cabinet are working hard to ensure that this year's budget takes into consideration those demands that are currently before us. Page 53, Appendix 1 sets out the unearmarked reserves and the resource allocation adjustments. These are mainly associated with business rates and council tax that were not confirmed ahead of budget set-in last year. Moving on to the capital programme and its outturn, you will see that that was some £91.361 million. This is set out on page 49, table 1, and the subsequent variances. Section 4.3 explains the capital programme that has continued to experience challenges, particularly in respect of inflation and increased borrowing costs. And the forecasts have also been updated following a change requested to the Department of Transport for transforming Cities Fund extension to the programme. Section 5 of the report sets out the capital financing, and it's important to recognise that here is where the cost of borrowing increase is shown. And this has made many projects much more unaffordable than they previously were. And this is a consequence of the increase in borrowing as a result of the Liz Truss budget. So when we refer to the economy was crashed by Liz Truss, this isn't just a strapline, this is evident and clear within this report before you. This report will remain provisional until the external auditors have completed their audit of accounts. And I would just like to say that there's an awful lot of information here and an awful lot of hard work goes into producing these reports by officers, and you don't get to a balanced position with an awful lot of hard work from officers and members alike, so I'd like to thank them for their contribution. This document has already been to scrutiny for their consideration, and which they had done, of course, Lord Mayor, and it's now simply with us for noting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to note the report?
Yes, Lord Mayor, I wish to formally second this report and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor. Move on to debate and any amendments. Does anybody wish to speak? I can't see who is it. Right, Councillor Stevens.
No need, thank you.
Right, in that case, I'll ask Councillor Lowry to sum up.
Nothing further to add, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The Council will note the report. I move to item 8, Treasury Management Annual Report to 23-24. Councillor Lowry, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Like the previous report I've just referred to, this is somewhat looking back at the last financial year. And if you look at table 4 of the report, you will see that there's a breakdown of the £17.3 million budget and the £16.3 million actual costs. So a saving of just over £1 million. That £1 million saving, Lord Mayor, gets used to provide additional services in our city, you'll be pleased to know. Although the impact of the higher interest rates was felt through the increase in interest payments, this was offset by some excellent Treasury management practices. And basically what we did, Lord Mayor, was to delay borrowings for as long as possible and thereby fixing our interest rates at a more preferential time. A diverse investment policy also saw the Council benefit from higher interest rate returns on a long-term investment, and this is set out in the report. So that's the interesting bit of the report, you'd be pleased to know. Here on in, and in order to comply with the Code of Practice for Treasury Management, the Council is required to formally report on its Treasury management activities for the year ahead, and that's why this report is with you, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to note this report? So, Councillor Allen, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I second this report formally and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Allen, nobody else? Would you like to speak?
Nothing further to add, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, Councillor Lowe, would you like to sum up?
Just to say, Lord Mayor, that this report was sent to the Audit and Governance Committee on the July meeting, and the report was approved by them, so it's recommended for our Council's approval.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll now move to the vote. Please vote using the buttons on your unit: green for in favour, red against, and amber to abstain. The motion is therefore carried. Item 9, Capital Monitoring Report. Councillor Lowry, would you like to introduce the report?
A bit of a jack in the box at the moment, yes. So this report sets out our capital monitoring position to the end of June this year. So it's the first 3 months of the financial year. The capital report as of June 2024 incorporates the movement of capital from the previous report that I've just delivered in respect of the outturn report. So the capital information provided there is now put into this report for us to go forward, and that's why it's important for Council to improve it. So that now means that the capital programme for the next 5 years is some £360 million, £480. So this report sets out the spending profile for each directorate and the resource funding, which is set out on pages 87 in Table 2. As always, the programme is front-loaded to reflect the level of uncertainty of projects associated with costs in the very early years. This table also sets out the financing of each of these projects, and as you can see, they are funded by various methods: capital receipts, grants, corporate and service borrowing, and developer contribution. Table 1 shows the new approvals for the period up until June of this year, totalling £13.748 million, of which £12.18 million reflects a successful funding bid for zero-emission bus regional area grant, which I know Councillor Coker and Sproston are very excited about for some reason. I'm sure they will explain to us exactly their reasons for their excitement. Table 4 sets out the projects that have been removed, and this is as a consequence that the criteria is so exacting that many local authorities have not been able to use this money, so we've had to return it, which is somewhat disappointing. But I do know that we've lobbied government to ensure that in future, funding associated with these grants is a bit more flexible than it currently is. In terms of funding, progressions from grant funding have been delayed as a consequence of the general election. However, as stated in the Treasury Management Report, we're now able to secure short-term borrowing with other local authorities at 4.95% against a current government rate of 5.23%. However, this does change on a daily basis. We are closely monitoring the Bank of England's borrowing reduction rates, and our Treasury Management have advised us that we expect a levelling off of interest rates throughout the next few years, particularly aiming to a rate of some 3% in 2026. This will, of course, increase decrease our interest rate cost and therefore making more money available for local services. This report has been to Cabinet for approval and to scrutiny and is here for Council's approval. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Right, thank you, Councillor Coker. Do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lowry, would you like to sum up? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Does anybody else want to speak? No? Right. Councillor Coker, then.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There was a kind of pass there, throwing myself under the bus from Councillor Lowry. I need to take the opportunity just to recognise that Plymouth won the bid for zero emission buses, which is great news for the city. This is now confirmed in our capital budget because we are the holding authority for the money. I just want to pay tribute to Plymouth City Bus, to the officers led by Paul Barnard and Rosie Starr in the public transport team for putting together a really good bid that a lot of authorities didn't get. So I think we should hold our head up in Plymouth and say we're on our way. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Coker. Councillor Lowry, would you like to?
See, I told you it was more exciting than listening to me, but nothing further to add, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Right. We'll move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit. Green for in favour, red against, and amber to abstain. The motion is therefore carried. I now move to item 10, Electoral Review Update. Leader, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The report updates Council on the change of arrangements for city elections in 26 and 27. Due to the electoral cycle consultation and the Boundary Commission review electoral arrangements. Previously, an all-out city election was scheduled for May 26, following completion of the Local Boundary Commission's electoral review of Plymouth Council under its original timetable. However, the Commission's timetable has changed because the electoral cycle review been undertaken by the Council, and they are no longer able to complete their review in 2026, or by 2026. Their amended timetable confirms that their review will finish in the autumn of 2026, with new local ward boundaries to be implemented at a May 2007 poll. Irrespective of whether full council decides to remain with the current electoral cycle or change to all-out elections, the law mandates that PCC must hold an election by thirds in May 26 anyway. So that will be happening instead of what was going to be an all-out election. And that will give the lucky winners a one-year term of office on their existing ward boundaries. And then, in 27, there'll be all-out elections on new boundaries. So I think that 27 election, that's when the new ward boundaries will be in place. The changes described above mean that councillors who were elected in 2022 only will have to stand again in 2026, as I say, for a one-year term. All other remaining councillors elected subsequent to 2022 you lucky people, will see their term of office end in 2027, when that all-out election will be held. So I hope that's clear. If you were elected at 22, you're going to face an election in 26. If you're elected after that, we'll all go together in 27 anyway. So I'm afraid all I can do today is to ask you to note the revised arrangements for the election in 26 and 27 as set out in the report, including the schedules of retirement appended to the report, and that the updated review timetable provided by the Boundary Commission is also noted. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen, I understand you will second the report?
Yes, thank you, my Lord Mayor. I second this report formally and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Lugger.
I'm obliged, my Lord Mayor, thank you. As the report states, I presented the electoral cycle review paper to the Council on the 21st of November 2022. A task and finish group was appointed and met on the 15th of January 2023, which I chaired as Audit and Governance Chair. And over a period of a couple of meetings, all the questions were formulated and the consultation ready in time for the agreed consultation period, which was June and August last year. This was to ensure, my Lord Mayor, that the Council's position on the intended electoral cycle could be confirmed to the Local Government Boundary Commissioner for England prior to the commencement of the City Council's electoral review, which was due to take place in December 2023. Now, sadly, if the current administration followed the advice I gave to Council at that time, there wouldn't have been a delay. So I invite the leader to apologise to the Council for that delay. This means we now have elections by thirds in 2026 when we would have had all-out elections. And that means that we have more elections in 2027, this time all-out elections. And so the cycle continues. I'm sorry to say, my Lord Mayor, this is a terrible waste of local taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lugger. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Allen?
No.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't. Sorry, Councillor Wood, please.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I just seek clarification because this report says it is to note. So therefore, can I just understand how we've come to a decision that it is to note and not a decision of this council, and how much this will now cost the council?
We don't have questions during the debate. So, just 1 minute. Sorry. Yeah. I'm informed we don't have questions like that in the debate, but we can advise separately. Thank you very much. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you, my Lord Mayor. The only thing I really have to add is that there was this small matter of a general election being called by the then Conservative government, which I believe caused a delay in council business due to the control period. But apart from that, happy to second this. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader, would you like to sum up, please?
I will. You're absolutely right, of course, that the general election did have a little bit to do with it, but even if it hadn't, I just want to challenge the premise of your request. You seem to have already decided in your own mind, because you keep saying it's a waste of money, we would have had elections in 26, and if we haven't changed the policy, we'd have had elections the following year as well on a third. So I don't understand where the premise of your question, especially you, Councillor Wood, actually comes from, that it would somehow be more costly. It will only be more costly if it is decided that we will change the cycle of elections, which we haven't done yet. We know the Conservatives, who are getting hammered at every poll that we put in front of the electorate at the moment, don't want any more elections because they don't want to be completely wiped out. We on this side don't mind facing the voters. We actually quite enjoy a dialogue with the local voters. So I'm afraid the premise of your question is completely erroneous, plus the fact part of the reason that there is a backlog is because of the underfunding of the Commission, who have a number of reviews to do. Actually, I think they welcome the fact they won't be doing Plymouth at the end of the timetable that they were going to be doing it. And so I think the call for my apology is erroneous, to use your words.
Thank you very much. The Council will note the report. I move to item 11, polling distance, place and stations review. And my advisor will put in a correction.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Before the leader introduces the report, just like to correct an error in the report. On page 117, the report refers to Elberton Methodist Church, no change. Elberton Methodist Church has not been a polling station for some years, and that should read Elberton Village Hall, no change. So just to make that correction before the leader introduces the report. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Leader, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor. The report presents final recommendations for the polling districts, polling places and polling stations review 23-24. All local authorities must comply with legislation about location and accessibility of polling districts and polling places. The mandatory review process, as set out in the Representation of the People Act 1983, must include a public consultation to be completed by January 2025. Plymouth City Council began its review in October 2023. The public consultation started on the 6th of November, ended on the 18th of December of the same year. Draft recommended changes to polling stations were submitted to and noted by Audit and Governance Committee on the 12th of March 2024, before the local elections and before the disastrous general election for the Conservatives, where they nearly got wiped out and had their worst result ever. Recommendations in the report will be implemented at the 2026 local elections and will be part of the supporting documents that will inform the City Council's electoral review, which the Local Government Boundary Commission of England began this year. So I therefore ask Council to note the proposed recommended changes to polling stations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen, I understand you will second the report.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I wish to second this report formally and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'd just like to bring to the attention of the Council on page 107, polling district HE in the Egg Buckland ward is noted as the Russell's Boxing Gym. It's been mentioned to me by many of my local residents that it is totally unsuitable as a polling station. The polling station has a terrible amount of parking availability outside, and disabled people find it very greatly difficult to access. I'd like to make that point on record. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll give that feedback to the electoral team. Right. Councillor Allen, do you anything to say? You speak.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Just that, if there are suggested changes to polling stations, there is a process for actually reporting that. So we do welcome your views as ward councillors. I say that to all members of the council here. But aside from that, thank you, Lord Mayor. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Leader, would you like to sum up?
In All I would say is if there are any further changes that need highlighting, would members please, rather than saving them for this meeting, respond to the electoral team as requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The Council will note the report. Right, moving to item 12, constitutional update. Councillor Allen, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. So I'm pleased to present the report on the proposed changes to our Council's constitution. This report outlines the necessary updates to ensure our constitution remains robust and effective. Over the past 12 months, members of the Audit and Governance Committee, along with other councillors, have diligently worked in a group to identify and address gaps in procedure and conflicting provisions within our constitution, which were highlighted during the 2022 to 23 municipal year. The Stage 3 recommendations propose the following changes. So on the rules of debate, the first bit is setting an expectation, although this is not a rule, that amendments to modify motions should be submitted 1 working day in advance. Members may still move amendments on the day, but this will require an adjournment. And then the second part is introducing a section on closure motions which clarifies the process without substantively changing the existing rules of debate. And regarding the council procedural rules, part B, firstly, establishing a new deadline for motions on notice set at 7 clear working days before the meeting. This allows officers adequate time to review the motions and check their legality before the monitoring officer, in consultation with the Lord Mayor, approves them for inclusion on the agenda. And then secondly, implementing a 2-hour time limit for motions. Any motions not discussed within this period will need to be resubmitted for a future council meeting. When the 2-hour limit is reached, the proposer of a motion may sum up before the council moves to the vote. The Audit and Governance Committee recommends to the full council for approval 1. The amended Part B council procedure rules as set out in the appendices in your agenda pack, and 2. The new rules of debate as set out in the appendices. These changes are recommended to address immediate needs, improve the efficiency of our council meetings, and enhance the clarity of our procedures. The Audit and Governance Committee will continue to maintain oversight of the council procedures and will assess the impact of these changes towards the end of the municipal year. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Bill Stevens, I understand you will second the report.
I'm very happy to, Lord Mayor, and I'll reserve my right to speak, please.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? No. Councillor Allen, would you like to sum up? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Right, nobody else wishes, so Councillor Stevens?
Wasn't like this 25 years ago, I tell you. No,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to let the chair reply, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted that we don't seem to have, this hasn't provoked a sort of huge controversial debate or anything. Actually, yeah, Councillor Lugger, I really do thank you and appreciate your forbearance on this today. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. We move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit, green for in favour, red for against, and amber to abstain. Thank you. The motion is therefore carried. Item 13, Audit and Governance Chair's Report. Councillor Allen, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to say to full I promise I won't be hogging the rest of the agenda this afternoon. I'm pleased to present the Chair's 2023 to 24 update from Audit and Governance Committee. In line with best practice, this provides an overview of the work of our committee as defined by the Council's constitution. Our remit includes receiving and considering reports from both internal and external auditors, ensuring management teams implement recommendations, overseeing risk management and governance issues. Throughout the 2023 to 24 financial year, we have focused on key areas such as internal and external audits, risk management, and the Constitution. We have also ensured that the annual statement of accounts and the annual governance statement present a fair and accurate position of the Council. The committee has also reviewed an assessment of the impact of voter identification in Plymouth, and we have regularly discussed the Council's request for a capitalisation directive to ensure that the right accounting treatment is given to transactions which have saved the taxpayer millions of pounds. Our efforts are crucial in maintaining high standards of transparency, accountability and financial integrity within Plymouth City Council. As we continue to face challenging decisions, the Audit and Governance Committee remains committed to providing an independent and high-level focus on audit, assurance and reporting arrangements. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Bill Stevens, under your...
I'll more than happy to second Lord Mayor, and I will reserve my right if that's appropriate.
Anybody else? No? So back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to say, the one thing that we do need to do is to thank Sarah for her stewardship, because this isn't an easy committee to get through in terms of subject matter. The agendas are very, very hefty, to say the least. And Sarah is scrupulously fair, make sure we get through our business, and very importantly, I think, presents it in a language that the watching public can understand. So with that said, I'm happy to second the report today.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Allen, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Nothing really more to say apart from, I thank Councillor Stevens for his kind words. It's been a pleasure. It's been a challenge at times, but I have actually really enjoyed chairing Audit and Governance Committee. Yes, it is hefty, it can be quite dry, but it's such an important committee, and yeah, thank you for that. Very pleased to recommend this report.
Thank you. Now move to item 14, the Scrutiny Annual Report. Councillor John Stevens, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I am pleased to present the Scrutiny Annual Report for 2023 to 2024. This report highlights the diligent efforts of our various scrutiny committees in ensuring transparency, accountability and continuous improvement within Plymouth City Council. Throughout the year, our committees have focused on key areas such as across key council services and issues affecting our communities. As you would expect, we have held numerous meetings and engaged with stakeholders. Our Performance, Finance and Customer Focus Committee was instrumental in monitoring the Council's budgets and performance, addressing issues like the senior leadership capacity and homelessness. The Education and Children's Social Care Committee has closely monitored children's services, contributing to the Children's Social Care Improvement Plan and addressing the needs of foster carers. The Health and Adult Social Care Committee has provided oversight during challenging times for the NHS, scrutinising health services and supporting initiatives like the Future Hospitals Programme and community defibrillators. Meanwhile, the Growth and Infrastructure Committee has focused on significant projects such as the National Marine Park, Freeport and Armada Way. We have also undertaken select committee reviews on budget scrutiny and water quality, ensuring that our financial plans are robust and our environment is protected. Our scrutiny process continues to provide value to council business, holds the Cabinet to account, and ensure that our policies and services meet the needs of our residents. We remain committed to engaging with the community and addressing the issues that matter most. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Darcy, will you second the report?
Yes, Lord Mayor, I formally second the report and reserve my right to speak.
Speak now or reserve the right to speak?
I reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Stevens, would you like to... Oh no, I'm sorry. Get this
Nothing,
right
nothing further, Lord Mayor, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Stevens, please.
Thank you. In that mind, I ask the Council to note the report, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. The Council will note the report. The Independent Remuneration Panel. I move to 1915. Leader, would you like to move the recommendations of the panel?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The Independent Remuneration Panel recently convened to consider the new parental leave policy for councillors following its review by the cross-party working group. They've also recommended adding a provision allowing members to forgo their allowances. Additionally, the IRP has confirmed that the special responsibility allowance for the chair of the management board will remain at the same rate as other scrutiny chairs. I'd like to extend my thanks to the members of the IRP for reviewing these elements of the scheme. I look forward to receiving further recommendations from the panel, as we will take them up on their offer to meet again once the new scrutiny structure has had time to bed in.
Councillor Lugger, would you like to second the report?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I would like to second the report and speak now, if I may.
That's fine. Okay.
Especially about the parental policy that we have now come up with. The cornerstone, of course, of being a councillor is the act of giving to one's community one's energy, passion and expertise. And nowadays it's very difficult to get suitable characters to become councillors. So to make the position as attractive as possible is what we're all about in this cross-party working. Over 35 years ago, I was told by our chairman of the party to all aspiring councillors, if you go on the council, it will cost you an awful lot of money. There was no meaningful allowances then. And certainly those who were self-employed or in public sector type jobs where there was time off for public leave were eligible, and they were the only ones who seemed to be councillors. As for paternity leave, my boss's idea of that was you can have a couple hours off early the following day after the baby's wetting of the head ceremony. And my boss's idea of leave generally was you can have a job off when you die, boy. So we have come a long way. This policy was interesting. I enjoyed the cross-party working on it. It is far-reaching, and from what I can tell, it's better than what any other local authority has on offer. So, with great pleasure, my Lord Mayor, I second this.
Thank you, Councillor. Leader, would you? Does anybody else want to speak? I beg your pardon. Councillor Beer, please.
Somebody's muted us, Lord Mayor, I think. So I do apologise for that. I know that probably a lot of you wanted to meet me. Lord Mayor, whilst I welcome these policy changes, they're absolutely perfect for what we do. There's nothing in there that says about bereavement. I've been hit 3 times in the last 2 years by very serious bereavements from close family members. And it would have been nice to be able to take some time away from my work as a councillor to be able to grieve, but I haven't had that honour. So I would have liked to have seen something about bereavement in this policy as well. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beer. Anybody else wish to speak? Can't see anybody. Right. Lisa, would you like to sum up?
I'd just go straight to the vote now, please, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit. green for in favour, red against, and amber to abstain. The motion is therefore carried, and I would suggest that we now take a break for tea before the rest of the meeting. Back at 4 o'clock. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your tea break. We are now moving on to motions on noting. The first one is on community cohesion. Councillor Steele, would you like to propose your motion?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Firstly, I wish to begin by expressing my condolences to the families whose loved ones were murdered in Stockport on the 29th of July. It was a tragic and entirely unnecessary loss of life. Their deaths were then exploited by prominent public figures to stoke division and divide around our country, including here in Plymouth. While the myths and disinformation they recklessly spread online wasn't the root cause of the disorder, it fanned the flames, causing real danger to life and damage to property. This was most visibly demonstrated by the despicable attempt to set fire to a building in Tamworth with people inside. People who have fled war and violence overseas, seeking safety and sanctuary in our country. That wanton violence was unjustifiable and was not a legitimate act of protest. I do not believe for 1 second the disorder in Plymouth on the 5th of August was a true representation of the Janus spirit. Plymouth is, and always should be, a proud and outwardly looking city. We are a city of pioneers and explorers who have travelled out to the farthest reaches of the world. And as we have gone out, so we have welcomed others in. Some of our most distinguished residents were not born in Plymouth, but have arrived to our city. Some have even reached the lofty heights of the Lord Mayor of Plymouth, from Lord Astor to yourself, my Lord Mayor. We all accept the need for a firm but fair migration system. However, equally, we should recognise and celebrate the positive contributions migrants play in British life. Just one example is in our healthcare system, where nearly 1 in 5 NHS staff in England are foreign-born. Without them, our healthcare system would simply collapse. I have worked in and around many of the conflict-affected parts of the world from where most refugees and asylum seekers arrive. One of the many things I have learned on my travels is nobody, but nobody, wants to flee their home. I believe the UK should rightly be proud of our strong tradition of providing protection to those forced to flee their homes. British people across the country, including here in Plymouth, have opened their homes to over 260,000 Ukrainians who have fled Russia's illegal invasion. And the UK has resettled over 30,000 Afghans who either bravely served alongside His Majesty's Armed Forces or stood up for our shared values of democracy, women's rights, freedom of speech, and the rule of law. I was inspired by the actions of a group of residents in Plymstock Radford in my ward who organised a carpool for care workers, many of whom would have usually clocked off and caught buses to Royal Parade to get home. One of these residents said to me, I could have wept at the relief the carers showed at having offers of lifts. This is the true Janus spirit. So as you can see, the damage caused was not just to property. It was also to people's sense of safety, and this will take longer to repair. I welcome the government's announcement of the Community Recovery Fund and that Plymouth will receive £600,000 to boost community cohesion. But I believe there is more to be done. Government needs to take a more proactive approach to tackle the viral myths and disinformation online that help spark this disorder and ensure that we have the dedicated resources locally to address it, including through support to our Community Safety Partnership. I want to put on record my sincere thanks to the police, council officers and all other partners for their roles leading up to and since the events of the 5th of August. And finally, I want to call on the whole council to stand together to make clear that violence, racism and hate has no place in Plymouth. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. And I understand that's your maiden speech, is that right? Congratulations.
That is correct, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Blight, I understand you will second the motion.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I will second the motion and I choose to reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak? Mary Lawson? And I have also, Councillor Riley, you got here first.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Sorry,
pray. I dropped my youngest child to her halls this weekend. It's 1,000,000 miles away, or so it feels. I spent the duration of my 6-hour journey home wondering what would be a reasonable excuse to turn around, grab her and tell her I do not give my full permission for this next part of her journey. After all, as a parent or a carer, everyone in this room will agree our job is to keep them safe. We want them to be happy, safe, and healthy. And this got me thinking about this motion and what it means for our young people. Young people have a beautiful and courageous view of the world. They help us in harder times with this positivity. And they give us a good reason to make the world a better place. All too often, though, we can be dismissive of their views and sometimes brush them off when they try to hold us all to account, even when this comes from a place of good intent, as we believe we know what's best. However, children and young people are vulnerable to the views of adults and are open to disinformation, as stated. As adults, we can create fear and anxiety in young people, which can skew the idea that the future is bright, full of wonder and opportunity. As a parent, a counsellor, and someone who works with a young person's charity, and as the chair of Children, Young People and Family Scrutiny, it would be remiss of me to not support this motion, especially aspects concerning education, because by encouraging young people to celebrate our city's diversity through education, we can broaden their horizon, encourage empathy, acceptance, and compassion, but above all else, we can allow them to support and collaborate with each other as they navigate through this crazy journey that we all call life, because it hasn't been easy for young people in recent years. I support this motion because we have a responsibility to create an environment where all of our young people thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Lawson.
My Lord Mayor, I feel it is important to recognise the positive contribution that our diverse community has to our city. The events of the 5th of August caused anxiety and fear to our residents, but more so for those from different ethnic backgrounds. It will be far easier to repair the physical damage that occurred that night than it will be to resolve the lasting impact of the events on some of the members of our community. Whilst acknowledging our right to freedom of speech and right to protest, words are important. A protest should not be seen as the right to thuggery and vandalism. Freedom of speech should not be seen as an acceptance of racism. That night brought fear and anxiety to me as a wife, mother, stepmom and granny. I always have a particular fear, but that night it was heightened more than I've ever experienced before. The protest was advertised as "Keep our children safe, stop the boats, your country needs you." I had to spend the evening worrying about my 17-year-old black son, encouraging him to contact his 2 close school friends who are also black and advising them to stay away from the city centre. I had to keep my child safe from a protest that was advertised as keeping our children safe. Can anyone make sense of that? My beautiful, diverse and blended family have always contributed positively to society. My mother-in-law and father-in-law answered the call from the mother country and left their home in Jamaica to help in the NHS. My mother-in-law worked in nursing until she was 67, my father-in-law becoming the first black public health inspector in Salford. They arrived in this country before Jamaica gained independence as British citizens. My husband, who was born here, served 22 years in the Royal Navy and I believe was the second black police officer in Plymouth, serving for more than 20 years. My kind and caring son has experienced racism and discrimination throughout his life, at school, on the football pitch, and shopping, to name but a few. On the football pitch is where it really hits him hard, playing the game he has loved since being able to kick a ball. I have seen him freeze in the moment, not speaking, as this could encourage more discrimination, not smiling, as this could be seen as smirking. The racism he has experienced has been overt, where he has openly called names, and covert. He has been called an effing N, boat person, Afro boy, and the list could go on. He has been followed by a security guard while shopping with his female black friend, The only way he could prove that he had purchased the cookies he was holding from the previous shop was the fact that the shop didn't sell them. A lesson learned. Always ask for a receipt or have some proof of purchase. He has spent time talking to perpetrators as recommended by the school, discussing with them what it feels like to experience racism, at what personal cost to him and his well-being. Experiences of racial discrimination are consistently linked with mental health issues. He has questioned his own identity and sense of belonging by asking how African he is and wanting me to explain, as his peers didn't seem to understand that he is Black British. How far could we go back in history, perhaps hundreds of years, to when African people were taken by boat to Jamaica? Britain encouraged people from the Caribbean to travel by boat to England to fill the void in workforce and to help rebuild the country after the Second World War. They travelled with hope and a sense of duty to a country that needed them. I have been a nurse for 41 years and have had the privilege of working with a diverse workforce, caring for the population of Plymouth. I can only imagine the apprehension that ensued that night for the diverse residents of this city travelling to and from their place of work, such as Derriford, to care for patients in our hospital or local care homes. I have spoken with Jenny Birchall, the Head of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion at UHP, to discuss the impact of that night on members of staff from the global community who are actively being supported by the Trust. There have been concerns raised from staff about feeling unsafe and uncomfortable travelling to and from work on public transport. The misinformation and disinformation shared on social media platforms resulted in anger, which erupted in Plymouth that night. What will the lasting effects of this be? My concern is around the potential increase in hate crime and the lasting impact this will have on our residents who have been greatly affected by this. It is all our responsibility to continue to stand up to hate and call it out when we see it. After all, as Maya Angelou said, hate has caused a lot of problems in this world, but has not solved one yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. And another maiden speech, I understand. Councillor Stevens, Bill Stevens.
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor. I'll do my level best to be terse. I want to just remark on the progress that I think we've made as a city, certainly in my lifetime, because my dad is from an ethnic minority. He doesn't have English as his first language, and indeed has never been citizen of the United Kingdom. And Ernie Settle in the 1970s wasn't the most cosmopolitan of places, and I can well remember the abuse that he and I suffered, and the rest of the family too, merely for looking and sounding a little bit different. But we have made enormous progress in the city I'm proud to call my home in the intervening years, to the extent that my young children don't give their school friends' ethnicity a second thought. They'll talk about which football team they support and which bands and singers they like. They'll talk about what soap operas they watch and what they like to do in the park and on their school holidays, but not once do they mention the colour of their skin. And that makes me not only proud as a parent, it makes me proud of our education system, and it makes me proud of this city. And having seen that progress, Lord Mayor, there's no way that I am going to let anyone turn the clock back. We really cannot afford to do that, Lord Mayor. What we saw a few weeks ago does not represent this city. It doesn't represent it at all. This city is represented by a sense of community, a sense of diversity, a strong sense of tolerance, and that's got to be the message coming out of this chamber today. I really want us to take this opportunity to say that what we saw has nothing to do with Plymouth. We are so much better than those horrible scenes we saw a couple of months ago. I'm delighted the motion is here today, and I'm delighted to be able to support it.
Anybody else wish to speak? No, then Councillor Blight. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that, the left side this time, sorry. Councillor Pemberley, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I was in two minds at the start of this meeting about whether I would get up to speak today. But as the Cabinet member responsible, I first of all want to thank everyone who's spoken, especially two maiden speeches in moving and seconding, and an extremely moving maiden speech from Councillor Lawson. For a long time, we've talked about the city being a welcoming city, a place where everyone is able to feel at home, to live, work and play. And from the position of white privilege, that might be how, to us, it looks. I know that the city has changed, and I agree with Councillor Stevens. It has changed very substantially. But the experience Councillor Lawson has told us today isn't an uncommon experience. I remember a couple of years ago, while I was chairing a scrutiny panel, we met with the police to talk about hate crime and talked about the reporting that Hope FC was seeing of racist experience in just about every school in Plymouth. At the weekend, Councillor Lang and I were sat on the Barbican when a young black man just walking down the street was racially abused by a Jana-sounding drunk young man. Sadly, despite everything we wish for, the city still has a journey to go on. And I think it is important that as a council, this has been raised with us today by Councillors Steele and Blight, because we have to continue to seek change and be the change, in order that this is a city that is welcoming for people of all colours and all races, of all faiths, people with disabilities and without disabilities, for women, for men, for young, for old, for people of different genders and sexualities, to be a welcoming city that encourages people to be here, to feel at home here, to be at home here in the city that is their home. Because it is only then that we will really show the tapestry that is Plymouth, built strong by the warp and weft of relationships and the variety and wealth of materials that adds colour and richness to the picture. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Tess. I wholeheartedly support your motion.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No, this time, Councillor Blight, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I speak to second the motion, and I want to start by quoting Rabbi Hugo Gryn. You can only be safe and secure in a society that practices tolerance, cherishes harmony, and can celebrate difference. Hugo Gryn was born in Czechoslovakia in 1930. He, his parents, grandparents, and 10-year-old brother was sent to Auschwitz in 1944. Hugo and his mother were the only two members of the family to survive. In 1946, he settled in Scotland and won a scholarship to study mathematics and biochemistry at King's College, Cambridge. Those of us of a certain age will have heard his regular broadcasts on the Godslot of the BBC for many years. Items such as Thought for the Day or The Moral Maze. My mother was born the same year as Hugo Gryn. She grew up opposite the Catholic Cathedral in Stonehouse. Like many of her generation in Plymouth, she was evacuated from the city during the war. These children had to leave the place they loved, their homes and families, and rely on the kindness and support of strangers. Refugees, if you like, in their own country. This has always had a resonance for me when considering attitudes towards refugees and asylum seekers. As a port, a naval base, and a city with 3 universities, we have welcomed and encouraged people to visit, to stay, and to make their home here. Only last week, PricewaterhouseCoopers produced a report on good growth for cities and named Plymouth as the best city in Britain for economic performance and quality of life. This achievement places Plymouth ahead of cities like London, Bristol, and Edinburgh, and of course, Exeter. We are described as a hub for opportunity and well-being. We have much to be very proud of and to cherish. I want to use this speech to encourage fellow councillors to continue to support the community groups that contribute to that sense of well-being and harmony in Plymouth. There are too many to mention in detail, and we all know of excellent community groups in our wards that promote inclusion and community cohesion. I'm going to highlight just 2 of these. Firstly, the International Dinner. In the last 2 years, Global Plymouth International Dinner has become something of a phenomenon in the city. It regularly attracts between 60 to 100 guests on a monthly basis. Up to 48 countries have been represented at their events. The international dinners not only bring people together to share food from different corners of the world, but have also become a successful collaboration of different organisations and institutions in the city. Secondly, PCFCD. The Plymouth Centre for Faith and Cultural Diversity was launched 23 years ago, just a few days after the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. The PCFCD approach is to build bridges of respect and understanding. Central to its work is the visits to schools by faith speakers from Plymouth's wide range of faith and cultural communities. School students aged between 6 and 18 meet with local people in order to learn about and learn from religious worldviews here in Plymouth and globally. As a councillor for Egg Buckland Ward, I was pleased to be asked to be a trustee of PCFCD, and I'm also very proud to be the current chair of Plymouth's Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education. In June this year, the council published the new agreed syllabus for the city's schools. Best practice in religious education is intellectually challenging and personally empowering. The teaching of RE is an important part of our children and young people's educational development. It enables them to take their place in the diverse, multi-religious and multi-secular city that is Plymouth. RE taught well is amazing, and we have some excellent examples in the city. Milford School, Goosewell Primary Academy, and Lara Green, to name but 3. I wholeheartedly support this motion and the requests made to the Leader of the Council, to the Chief Executive, and to fellow councillors to complete regular training, including the LGA Online Equalities and Diversity module. In particular, I wish to commend the Plymouth RE Agreed Syllabus as a foundation to promote knowledge and understanding of different communities and to encourage the values of respect tolerance, and the willingness to learn from others. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blight. Now, Councillor Steele, please.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. So I just want to sum up by saying thank you to all of my council colleagues for sharing such moving insights and speeches and personal experiences that really just show that Plymouth is a beautiful mosaic made up and made more beautiful by the diversity that we find in our city. And I think the words that some of our councillors who spoke really resonate with me, that we cannot allow anybody to turn the clock back. I fully support that view, and we must continue to seek to change and be the change. I think those are really key messages for everybody who spoke here. And also the really important role of education that was raised by many of the different councillors who spoke, and the role that education has in supporting community cohesion and the great work that goes on in Plymouth. And so I want to wrap up by just saying, I want to reiterate my call on the whole council to stand against racism, hate and violence in our city. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. We will move to the vote now. Please vote using the buttons on your unit: green for favour, red for against and amber for abstain. The motion is therefore carried. Next motion is for motion on notice is Plymouth pensioners. Councillor Lugger, would you like to propose your motion?
I'm obliged, Lord Mayor, thank you. Credit where credit is due. Winter fuel payments were introduced in 1997 by the last Labour government and have been available to everybody in the UK who has reached the state pension age. As members are aware, the payment is made annually in the winter months and helps many older Plymouthians afford heating during the coldest months of the year, thereby preventing the so-called heat or eat dilemma and safeguarding health. According to Age UK Charity, the average constituency in England and Wales has 16,000 pensioners who will lose the winter fuel payments under the new Labour cut. With Plymouth's ageing population, sadly that figure is much higher. It is estimated that the figure can be as high as 40,000 pensioners in our fair city and the neighbouring area. I have absolutely no concern for those wealthy pensioners who can afford to use their winter fuel payments for presents for grandchildren and children. I have concern for those who are in the middle ground. Even as Councillor Evans alluded to at the beginning, those on the lowest spoke of fortune's wheel will be protected by to a certain extent, by the pension credit trigger. The problem with those in the middle ground are, Age UK warns that this massive cohort have weekly incomes that are less than £50 a week above the poverty line. They do not qualify for benefits, and they do need the winter fuel payment allowance. These are the real people who will suffer under Rachel Reeves' cuts. I have spoken to the local citizens' advice. Already they are inundated with pensioners concerned. According to their practice, they will conduct a free welfare review of any pensioner coming in expressing concern. By the same token, the local DWP are braced to offer a free welfare assessment for those coming to their offices. However, both organisations have expressed concern that many will come in, they will be means tested, but they actually will not take welfare support. That's the rub. They will not take it though they are eligible. They are far too proud, but they do desperately need the winter fuel payment. Members present, winter is upon us. We all felt how chilly it is night times now. It's now the window of opportunity to let your residents know that this is the time to apply for benefits if they're so inclined. I appreciate that this is a dilemma. I appreciate every government needs to find pots of money. But I would encourage the leader to support this and to write to both the Chancellor and the Minister to make them aware of the dire situation elderly Plymouth people will find themselves in and the potential impact upon health and well-being. The Council also requests that the leader should ask the Department of Work and Pensions to investigate other ways of alleviating fuel poverty and perhaps a council initiative to ameliorate the situation. Finally, I understand that this was probably whipped. I would urge members on the other side of the chamber to vote with your conscience, not with the whip if it is. And finally, everybody in this room, that's paid officials of the council, members of the council, the aldermen, the alderwomen, those in the public gallery, those watching at home, please sign the petition which has been laid out by Age UK called Save the Winter Fuel Payment for Struggling Pensioners. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lugger. Councillor Darcy, I understand you will second the motion?
Yes, my Lord Mayor, and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Pember, the others I can't see them at once. Councillor Pemberley and Terry Beer. Right, okay. Councillor Pemberley, I think you were first.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'd like to move support have.
Councillor, the amendment is being circulated now.
Will members want a short adjournment?
Kathy Kins. Will members require a short adjournment? Any suggestions? Leader? Shorter down here.
Lord Mayor, short adjournment if you please.
Right, thank you. What's 10 minutes? 5 minutes? 10 minutes, back at 1:45, will that do? Thank you. Councillor Pemberley, would you like to move your amendment? And you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This motion is entitled Plymouth Pensioners, and as a council there are things we can do, and therefore if we're going to talk about Plymouth Pensioners here in this chamber, we should have actions coming out of such a resolution that talk about what we can do as a council. The amendment gives us some of those. There are plenty more. We're already considering resurrecting our Tell Granny campaign. Through work in schools, ensuring that grandparents are told what they're entitled to. Leaflets in book bags and all sorts of things. Last time we did it, it was really, really successful. It's important that we take away the stigma of benefit. For the last 14 years, we've had a government that has described benefit recipients as scroungers. I'm really pleased that we now have a government that has already launched 2 benefit take-up campaigns. Benefit recipients aren't scroungers. Pensioners need to be told that in receipt of benefit, they are getting paid back some of what they have paid in. It's already something that they've taken care of in their lifetime. There is no shame to taking out of things you've put in during your older years. And we're going to do stuff about that. We talk about building bridges to opportunity, which we launched as an administration just a week ago. A new approach to tackling poverty, and here an opportunity to specifically look at pensioner poverty within that. I think that's would be welcome. But there are lots of organisations around the city that we fund, that we can work with. Citizens Advice do all of that work that you were talking about earlier, Councillor Lugger, because we fund them to do it. And we increase the funding each time we have an opportunity. Be fair to say that Plymouth Energy Community are also doing lots at the moment, as are lots of debt advice agencies and others. By pulling together, we can help people claim the money that they are entitled to. And that's the important bit. Because you talked about the fact that this wasn't a universal credit, that was a universal benefit that was universally needed. So let's make sure that the people who needed it most take it up, get it, and get all those other benefits that Councillor Evans talked about earlier coming to them as well. So this motion has now given us an action, a very deliberate action. It's also asking, rather than just a letter to a DWP, if it goes to an official, the custom and practice is that's a chief executive letter. So we have just made that very clear, that your motion asks for a letter to a department. The custom and practice of that is it is the chief executive writes to departments, and we have made sure that that is clear in the motion. So we're saying we'll take action, we'll ask the chief executives to take action, but the leader has already spelt out his response earlier in this meeting about the action we will be taking, and we'll be taking a lot of it, more than is just in the amendment to the motion. Lord Mayor, I move.
Thank you, Councillor Bemsey. Councillor Evans, I understand you're going to second the motion?
Lord Mayor, I am.
Would you wish to speak now or reserve your
I
right?
think I would like to speak now, please, if that's all
do.
right. I mean, it was interesting, Councillor Lugger, that on the back of a quite obviously Conservative Central Office motion that's gone around every Tory group around the country, that you're asking us now not to, you're suggesting that you're not going to be whipped, and we are. We'll see how people go with the conscience now. But what I need to say is it's extraordinary, really, when you think about it, the brass neck of Conservatives, given what they've done to pensioners, given what they've done for people over the age of 52 who are now pensioners since they were elected in 2010. I mean, let's not forget the fact that the Conservative management of the economy over 14 years has left pension pots much smaller than they might otherwise have been. Let's not forget that austerity meant that Britain's pensioners are amongst the lowest remunerated pensioners in Europe. Let's not forget that the health service, upon which so many pensioners depend to keep going, has been starved of funding, starved of staff, starved of investment, and the very people who need it most can often now have to wait days and days and days to be seen by a general practitioner or by a dentist if they can be seen at all. Let's not forget that the Conservatives in 2017 were all about making some changes to the pension. Something you probably want to forget. And also that current leadership, contenders for the Conservative leadership, are talking about undoing the triple lock as part of their appeal to MPs and to members. This new Labour government, of course, has recommitted to the triple lock for the lifetime of this Parliament, which is only a good thing. And don't forget that because wages are going up, something that your party is very hostile to, we know that. That's why you had so many strikes, because you refused to implement the recommendations of so many pay review boards. Actually, the effect of pay going up in the public sector is driving up pensions, because that triple lock means that it reflects rising average wages too. So it's a very important thing. So the Tell Granny campaign we brought in something like 12 years ago, and I remember it was very successful. The basic thing is some pensioners believe they're too proud to claim. And we say those things are there for a reason. You pay in your whole life, your working life, you are entitled to these things if you need them. They are not there for something to be ashamed of. And so the Tell Granny campaign was all about getting grandkids and kids to tell their mums and grandparents to claim what was rightfully theirs. It was a shame when we lost office that you stopped that campaign, because it was very successful. And I hope that we can reactivate and reanimate that now. I would just like to say that the point about the amendment, as Chris Penberthy said, was that what we're about now is not about trying to make political capital. What we're about now is trying to do something to help people who need it most. And it is terrible to think that there are so many people before this change who were entitled to pension credit and weren't claiming it. And millions of pounds were going out of the Plymouth economy as a result. So it isn't just the effect it has on pensioners. Those pensioners are more likely to spend their money locally than they are anything else, which helps everybody else in Plymouth at the same time. So it's in Plymouth's interest to make sure that pensioners get everything that they're entitled to. So please support this amendment. It is about local action, not words. And let's see if we can't get money to those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Lugger, would you like to sum up on this?
I thank you, my Lord Mayor. Members, I'm somewhat perplexed that the leader is not prepared to write himself. How extraordinary, when earlier on in the debate we heard how important it was for the leader to write to those in Westminster. But I do take a positive from this. Councillor Penberthy has clearly stated that there is a direction of travel here. We do have a commitment as a council to work on this point, and that I commend. So I'm very happy to accept the amendment, but I would like whoever sums up this motion to explain why the leader's not writing and it's delegated to the Chief Executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lugger. Does anybody else want to speak on the amendment? Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've got to speak quite passionately about this because as a pensioner myself, I know I look a bit too young for that, but as a pensioner myself, this will affect me. And I'm one of those who've come into the bracket where I'm just over the threshold for claiming a pension credit. But a lot of my residents are in that position as well. But I also need to talk to you all about people who are in palliative care. They don't get pension credits automatically. I think you'll find the pension credit form is probably pages and pages of forms for them to fill out. And it's those people in palliative care that are being neglected. Those people who have earned money and put it into our economy are now not able to claim it back because they've just missed the threshold. I'm really concerned about what's coming next. The Christmas bonus, or are you going to take my pension, my bus pass away, and that of many other residents in this city? You know, that's what concerns me. This is the start. Now, an amendment could have been put in to stop us from taking the whole amount of heating allowance from us. It could have been phased out, for example, but no, you're going to slip the carpet from under all those pensioners and make them freeze this summer, and you're going to cause them so much pain. And particularly, you've not given any consideration to those pensioners who are in palliative care. And I'm not talking just about cancer, I'm talking about dementia, I'm talking about Parkinson's disease and all the other dreadful diseases that we have inflicted on us. Those people aren't able to do their application forms, and I'm very annoyed about it. It should never have happened. I have to say I'm grateful to Councillor Rebecca Smith for voting against it in Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'd be interested to know why the Leader of the Council is either unwilling or incapable of writing a letter to the Chancellor and the relevant Minister himself, when Councillor Cresswell highlighted in her announcements earlier just how useful she found it to speak to the relevant Minister directly. Surely it would be the most effective to pursue all avenues.
Thank you. And I have Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I welcome that we've got this further debate on this motion this afternoon, and as Councillor Lugger said, it's good that we're getting to a point where I think we coalesce on the vast majority of what we're saying. I think in line with Councillor Evans's let's not forget, I think it's important to get on record that we mustn't forget what happened under the Labour government in 2008 to pension pots as well, which certainly came up on the doors in both the local and the general election campaigns earlier on this year. But again, we're not doing political points, so I shall move on to the things that are about Plymouth itself. I think the motion as a whole is about pensioners as a whole, which in a way is what Councillor Beer has alluded to, and I think we've slipped into only talking about pensioner poverty. Now, it goes without saying that pensioner poverty is something that we're all committed to avoiding, but the whole fact of what happened with the cut to winter fuel payments is an impact on those who are at that cliff edge. So where you do literally just not quite qualify for pensioner credit and then all the additional support that comes with it is the piece that for me is the most concerning. It's those residents who, it's not a pride issue, it's that they just wouldn't qualify for that additional support but may only just miss out by a few pounds a week. So I think that's why with the Household Support Fund money in particular, whilst I welcome the suggestion here that the new funding that has been confirmed by the government for the next 6 months could be used to target those who miss out on the winter fuel allowances. As has been alluded to already, we're talking about tens of thousands of residents, and having been responsible for delivering the household support fund in the past, I know that whilst it is a healthy amount of money, it's not to the same extent as £200 or £300 per individual. And so whilst it's welcome that it is going to be used to look at how we distribute it, I just want to be realistic that that's not going to make up for what these pensioners are losing. So I'm hopeful to see what comes forward. But like I said, those Cliff-Ed pensioners who are not per se in poverty, but who have really benefited from that additional support over the years, I'm particularly concerned about. I think that's the main thing I want to cover in the amendment. I've got another point to make in the final debate, so thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this point? No, so Councillor Pemberley, could you sum up on the amendment, please?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. In trying not to be political, people have been a bit political. So what would have happened if in the previous government some things like not rapidly bringing in changes to pension ages that have particularly disproportionately affected women? Women are more likely to be single pensioners. Oh, that was yeah, that was fine. Let's not raise income tax thresholds, which means that pensioners will go into having to pay income tax. So we forgot it at the budget, so we'll make it a general election campaign issue. You know, there are so many bits here. Let's cap the local housing allowance while rents are going up, and how many pensioners in receipt of benefits are now finding their benefits don't cover the costs of their rents. Oh, who was that? Yes, sorry, that was the previous government as well. I could go on and on and on, because very helpfully members of the Labour group keep on sending me more and more things in our group chat that have affected pensioners over the last 14 years because of a Conservative government. So I'm not going to take lectures from you on one action. We are going to do what we can do here in Plymouth, and we're going to do it to the very best of our ability. We won't be able to help those people who actually were giving it away as presents. I've spoken to volunteers all over the city who've told me that, you know, or it pays for an extra holiday, or, you know, we go out and do an extra long weekend away. That is never what this benefit was meant for. And actually, probably, why in 2017, one of the actually many things that were promised in that Conservative manifesto that didn't get through was the means testing of this benefit. And the other things that didn't get through were the social care stuff and people not having to sell their homes in order to get care. Much, much bigger issues, I can assure you, for most pensioners than this payment. I am pleased that the pension rise last year and the pension rise this year are substantially more than the winter fuel payments. So there are ways it is being covered, but we will do our best. And in terms of fuel poverty, we will ask the Chief Executive to write to DWP. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Right, so we will now move to the vote on the amendment. Press the buttons on your unit, green for favour, red against, and amber to abstain. The amendment is now carried. So, is there anybody who wishes to speak on the motion with the new plus amendment? Councillor Smith? Anybody else? Councillor Smith? Oh, and also Councillor Dahl. I beg your pardon. You should be next, I think. Councillor Smith first, and then Councillor Darcy, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So the point I just wanted to raise was actually a kind of practical suggestion, which I think could be something that we as a council could lead the way on. And I've mentioned it before, but again, in the spirit of trying to be as helpful to the pensioners we've got locally as we can, one of the things that's become apparent with this change to the winter fuel payment is that it was just that cut-off, and that there's, you know, you're either means tested for pension credit or you get nothing. Now, I think we'd all agree that tapered benefits are the best kind because they recognise the fact that people's circumstances change, and as your income goes up, you get less, and that works quite well. Now, one of the things that we did in this council a couple of years ago was we had to distribute the council tax rebate that the last government gave when the cost of living was particularly high. And I know there was a cost to the council at the time, and our officers worked really, really hard to do that. But ultimately, we were able to distribute £600,000 of discretionary council tax payments to those most in need in the city by using the council tax system where people already receive discounts, they already get means-tested benefits that are on a taper, and where some actually don't pay council tax at all because, for example, they might have dementia. So I just wanted to put it out there, particularly to the party opposite who are close to the Labour government, to actually look at another way of distributing this money, and that actually if it came as a pot of cash to local authorities rather than done through the DWP, we would have much more discretion over how it was implemented and how it was allocated to residents, and would go in addition to the Household Support Fund, which not only needs to help our pensioners, but needs to help young families and individuals who aren't yet at pension age. So I just thought I'd be constructive and helpful in this debate today and say we did that really well when we had to distribute that council tax funding, and I think we did a great job of giving it to those most in need. I'm sure there could have been more that we gave them at the time, but I'd like to just suggest that is something we might want to take forward. So I shall leave that with the party opposite, but just thought I'd get it on record. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Darcy.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I was seconding the original motion on notice, and I was pleased when we received the amended, which now becomes the substantive, because I'm pleased to see that tinkering around the edges, there seems to be a consensus, certainly in the chamber today, so we can make progress on our original motion on notice. I share my colleagues' concerns as to whether that correspondence should come from Councillor Evans or Chief Exec, but without wishing to do it to death, and I, like many members, respect Councillor Evans tremendously and acknowledge and recognise the political weight he does carry, not only in this city, but in Westminster and further flung places. So I would have liked to have seen Councillor Evans throw his weight behind that, but he's explained, at least in part, why it's better to come from the Chief Exec. I would like to perhaps refute any suggestion that anyone on this side of the chamber, and I include the first two benches at least, don't take the view of people who are in receipt of benefits as scroungers. Whilst I appreciate that comment might have been directed at others, it's certainly not the view of the Conservative Party here in Plymouth. So I certainly refute that. And in the spirit of Councillor Evans, who I nearly fell off my bench, where he says he's not out to make political capital, and that's not what Councillor Evans does when he's on his feet in this chamber. And in the same paragraph, perhaps he mentioned the 14 years of the Conservative government, austerity, failures in health service funding, investment in staff, and current leadership competition. So I'm pleased that he stuck to his own mantra of not making political capital. But I think it's right that we need to view this in the entire context of what we've been told is a seismic and somewhat perplexing £22 billion black hole that would perplex the likes of Stephen Hawkins and many other eminent physicists. And given that it's very much central to how the government plan to move forward, having assumed power earlier this year, I do find it somewhat strange that we are being told it exists, but every individual or agency or organisation who's tried to understand how it exists and how that's made up, including the Financial Times, which I read only this week, submitted an FOI request for the charts and the paperwork in respect of these calculations of £22 billion black hole, Lord Mayor. And again, that FOI request was declined by the government, which may come as a bit of a shock to this new government, saying the details would be published only in accordance with agreed timelines, and they put this bit in quotation marks, so it must be true, to allow the relevant officials time to complete the preparation of the information to ensure it is accurate and correct prior to publication. Well, they've already published it's a £22 billion black hole, but they're still working out the numbers, and the Treasury want a little bit more time before they do so. It was suggested that they use the OBR, and again, that hasn't been taken up. Well, Lord Mayor, we can certainly help them, because this is affecting the decision made in respect to the pensions, Lord Mayor, which is why we're here. And it's certainly common ground that 9.4 billion of this 22 billion pound black hole that's been discovered under the desk of number 11 was the payment awards for the public sector pay rises that were initiated very quickly after Sir Keir and Miss Reeves took power. And equally, another 8.6 billion is down to normal reserves requirements, not unusual for governments. So you can see, Lord Mayor, how easy it would be to publish these figures of this 22 billion pound black hole when we can already account for some 17, 18 billion of it. But nevertheless, it's those nasty Tories who've created this problem, and it's Labour now who are going to, I know it's outrageous, right? It's those nasty Tories and it's Labour who have come in at breakneck speed to resolve the issues in the good spirit they did do, and we'll all be better off for it. Going back to the motion on notice, we urge members to support this. It affects Plymouth people, and we hope that this can be followed through and given the full weight to the council, and government may rethink. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I mean, I think I do need to say this because it's something that people keep forgetting. But the Conservative Party voted against the introduction of the winter fuel allowance in 1997. I mean, you would think from the way they've been speaking today that it was their idea. I mean, we're probably waiting. If we wait long enough, they'll probably try and pretend that it was. So I think it's important to put that on the record. Like when the minimum wage came in, that was, you opposed that as well because you said that that was going to cost jobs and it was it'd be a disaster. So, you know, you've got a track record of getting these calls wrong. The other thing, of course, was the original idea behind universality was it was cheaper than means testing, and then we could reclaim the money through tax. But then you gave the millionaires and the non-DOMs free rein to avoid paying tax on their winter fuel allowance. You know, we are where we are. So I just wanted to get that over. The other thing is about the £22 billion black hole, and Councillor Darcy suggesting that the OBR should look at it. Well, isn't that the point? The reason it's a black hole is because you didn't give the OBR the information before the general election. You went ahead with the leaflets, the posters, the TikTok videos, and all the social media saying about how generous you were as a Conservative government without actually giving the OBR a look at the figures, which is why we got a black hole. Copyright Stephen Hawking, 2024.
Thank you. And now have Councillor Loveridge.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I wasn't going to speak today, but I've decided to speak because this is about here and now, today, not tit for tat, who's done this and who's done that. It's a disgraceful decision to cancel the winter fuel allowance made by the Labour Party. Let's call this decision exactly what it is, an outrage, failure to stand up for those vulnerable people. How can the Labour Council justify cutting a programme that ensures basic warmth and survival for the citizens? It is nothing short of outrageous. That's under the banner of the budget constraints. We are turning our backs on the most vulnerable people. The NHS is in crisis, as we all know. And unfortunately, we're going to see more and more elderly people being admitted to hospital with hypothermia, respiratory illnesses, even death. Now, this is our parents, our grandparents who fought in the war, who also have paid their taxes all their lives. And I don't know if you know, but in the week, the headlines were, Labour said in 2017, cutting old age pensioners' winter fuel could kill 4,000 people. Starmer was in the shadow cabinet at that time, so why is he forcing it through? It's outrageous. I just can't get my head around it. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Loveridge. Right. Councillor Lugger, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Councillor Evans used the word erroneous when I spoke earlier today. Erroneous, E-double-R, erroneous. Yes, well, what is erroneous is the snide insinuation that this is a central office-led motion or notice. On the contrary, this is a motion which I tabled because it is a motive point, and a motive point which affects many Plymouth pensioners. Let me be clear here. It seems to be lost in translation across the chamber. Many pensioners will not claim pension credit. Despite being eligible, they simply will not claim it, thus exacerbating their financial hardship. Councillor Evans also mentioned that the nasty old Tories didn't back the winter fuel payments in the first place. Well, they didn't, but it's certainly been doubled under our administration, and furthermore, we have increased minimum wage. So where are the nasty Tories now? Councillor Loveridge made a very, very good point about their own statistics saying that 4,000 pensioners could die as a result of this pernicious cut. The NHS members are gravely concerned about this. They are warning that the fuel poor will clog up the hospitals because these poor people cannot afford to heat their own homes. What a travesty this is. And Councillor Penberthy said it is getting a bit political. Well, what is political is this little chart I've got in front of me. This shows all the Labour MPs have claimed home working allowances. And what's on there? Oh, Liz Kendall, the Chancellor herself, and the monies which they get towards their fuel, when poor pensioners in Plymouth will not. Let us also conclude we are grateful for the assistance of the council intervention here, but your parliamentary party, I hope that they sleep well in their warm beds this winter, where many Plymouth pensioners will not. Thank you, my Lord.
Thank you, Councillor. We will now vote to the vote now. Please vote according to the buttons on your unit. I'm sure you know them by now. Thank you. The motion is therefore carried. We come on to item 17, questions by councillors. Now, can I invite members to ask any questions of the leader, cabinet members or committee chairs? Please indicate you would like to speak by raising your hand and I will call you to speak. Please note that there are up to 45 minutes for this question and answer session. That's the whole session. Questions should be no more than 1 minute long and answers no more than 2 minutes. Members may ask one supplementary question, not a statement, which must be related to the original question they asked. The same restrictions apply. First question I get is from Councillor Blight.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. My question is to the Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Transport and Highways. I've received, as the Egg Buckland Councillor, a petition from a resident. Over 190 names on the petition from users of the 28 bus, which she collected over a week period on the bus from those users. She's asking for a review of the half-hourly provision of the 28 bus through Egg Buckland and Shallowford and through Deer Park. Would it be possible to arrange a meeting with you and the city bus team to discuss my residents' concerns and to look at ways of improving this service for Egg Buckland and Deer Park?
Thank you, Councillor Blight. Yes, absolutely. My bus champion, Councillor Sproston, and myself are happy to facilitate a meeting with our public transport team and with Citybus. And this is a commercial service. It is not a Plymouth City Council tendered service, but we will be able to use the relationship in the Enhanced Bus Partnership to facilitate your residents' concerns.
Thank you. Councillor Ricketts.
Question for Councillor Coker. I see you've got a smile on your face. Listen, I raised this at the last meeting about Central Park Avenue, the overall issue, and then the block pathway. Literally, a few days later, we were contacted by Alex. His mother had slipped over walking around and fractured her shoulder and is still having hospital treatment ongoing at the moment. Me and Councillor Holloway and yourself, I know we did have that meeting at the end of our tether, okay? Do you have any further update, Councillor Coker?
Thank you, Councillor Ricketts. And yes, I acknowledge I met with you and Councillor Holloway, and I'm really sorry to hear of the accident that happened. I promise to take this up with the senior management team on your behalf, which I'm sure the Chief Executive will acknowledge that I did. I am told that there will be some movement next week with looking at the condition of the ground. I am also told, and I haven't heard from you and Councillor Holloway, that the highways team have been out and put in more barriers and made it safer, but I will take that from you. But I am pushing Councillor Ricketts as hard as I can. This is a multi-agency, multi-department problem that I, for some reason, have taken the lead on, and I will continue to do it to get a resolution.
Supplementary.
Thank you. Have you supplementary?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. But in the interim, can you? I obviously forwarded that email from Alex. Okay. Can you please either yourself respond to him directly, or someone in your department, because he still hasn't had a response from you or the department. Thank you.
We'll make sure that that's done, Councillor Ricketts.
Thank you. Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. A common problem and a question for Councillor Tom Braisdell. Hedges across Plimpton Owl are at least a metre thick, which are encroaching on the public highway, which in turn is having problems with buses getting through, people are getting scratched, children are getting stung on the way to school. What are you doing about hedges across Plimpton in general. And I have to speak on behalf of my colleagues, Councillor Nicholson and Nicholson, because they're not here today, but exactly the same issue is happening in Plimpton St Mary Ward.
Thank you for your question, Councillor. So the majority of the vegetation cutback happens in the autumn. That is both for ecological reasons, but also in terms of transitioning existing members of staff who are very busy with other service areas throughout the summer. And so that will be commencing in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you, Councillor, supplementary? No.
No, Lord Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Councillor Smith, Matt Smith?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question's for Councillor Coker, I'm afraid. So, as the councillors whose ward cover Mutley Plain, myself, Councillor Tippett, Councillor Penrose and Councillor Holloway get a lot of emails about the crossing where Mutley Plain meets North Hill. Unlike the rest of the crossings on Mutley Plain, there is no pedestrian sequence on the traffic lights there, and there are lots of near misses on a crossing that gets a lot of school children, Plymouth High School for Girls, Mount Street, and also the various groups using Mutley Baptist Church. So could I ask if you've made any assessment of what could be done to make the crossing there safer, please?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I am very acutely aware of your concerns and the other councillors' concerns. I am also acutely aware of the budgetary pressures that Plymouth City Council are under. I have tasked the Highways team to go away to look at a solution for that, but also to work with other agencies such as Active Travel to see whether we can get some funding to make safety and pedestrian crossings a priority, and yours is certainly on the list to do so.
Supplementary, Lord Mayor. That's fantastic, and we've been out on Mutley Plain speaking to residents and asking people to sign a petition, and there's a lot of support for it. So could I just ask that we could have a meeting with you to discuss those options further, please?
I'm going to be busy, aren't I? Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Rainsford.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question is for the Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Events, and I understand it's going to be answered today by the leader in her absence. It comes from a meeting I had with the Hoe Neighbourhood Forum, who are very involved in the events that happen on the Hoe, and they're very interested to understand a little bit more about the benefits that accrue to the city as a result of us hosting those events, the British fireworks, competition and the music events.
Elisa?
Thank you very much indeed for the question. The summer sessions, which some of us attended very enthusiastically indeed, actually saw thousands, tens of thousands of people on Plymouth Hoe over a 4-day period to watch some of the biggest acts on the planet playing on Plymouth Hoe. It's fantastic. Live Nation, who were the people behind the concerts, had a team of over 100 people who needed Plymouth hotels and B&Bs between the 7th and the 20th of June while they were building the show and taking it down afterwards. Plymouth City Council's streets team undertook traffic management element of the event, and that helped to keep money in the city. The council's commercial team undertook the waste management and cleaning element of the event, again keeping money in the local economy. We were able to advertise foster caring for Plymouth to thousands of people who visited the site, which is fantastic. Of course, there were plenty of grassroots performance slots for Plymouth local bands to ply their trade, which was an opportunity some of them will remember for the rest of their lives. On fireworks, a big event, as you know, Alison. 100,000 people in the audience over the 2 nights. And across social media, 548,000 people reached. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? 41,500 people tuned into the live stream, so people who couldn't make it were still able to enjoy it. And not just in the city, but across, across the world, I guess. And of course, it's been estimated that the amount of publicity generated by the British Fireworks Championship actually is worth £9.290 million. So big numbers, a big event, and we hope to keep it in Plymouth for many years to come.
Thank you.
Just a brief supplementary to say thank you for that answer. And whilst I think most of us expected there to be a financial benefit, it's hearing about all those other benefits, whether it's for foster carers or it's for local bands. I think it's a thoroughly good thing which Plymouth support.
Councillor Allison.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question is for Councillor Lang. Can you tell me when work is due to begin on the Youth Investment Fund work at Frederick Street Youth Centre in Stonehouse, as well as the other youth centres in Efford and Honicknall? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allison. Yes, Frederick Street, Efford and Honicknall Youth and Community Centres form part of the corporate estate and are the 3 sites which have recently been awarded £4 million. That's made up of £2.4 million from the Youth Investment Fund, £600,000 from capital funds for legacy maintenance works, and an additional £1 million from the Emergency Climate Investment Funding. Work proposed at the locations will completely revamp the buildings and deliver significantly more services to young people and communities than ever before. In August, Tech Construction Holdings Limited were awarded the contracts to deliver for all 3 sites, and I went to visit all 3 sites ahead of the work beginning to see the colossal efforts that have to be made to get the centres ready for that work to begin. And they are planning to commence works on all sites from the 23rd of September.
Thank you. If you've got a supplementary.
Yes, just to say thank you, and that's really exciting, and I can't wait to see it when it's finally open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Ricketts.
This is to Councillor Penberthy. Angela Rayner has said that every town and city in this country will take their fair share of illegal immigrants. What is Plymouth's fair share?
Plymouth has always stood up to the plate to take our share of people. We have taken people from Syria, from Afghanistan. Those are numbers negotiated with the government at the time. We also have a group of asylum seekers in the city. We have always been happy to do that. They are small numbers. In total, asylum seekers are less than 400 in the city. The other schemes coming to less than 100 between all of them. These are not large numbers in terms of the population as a whole. If the government wishes to change the formula, they will come and talk to us about that. But at the moment, we have not seen any change of formula proposed.
Supplementary. Okay, thank you. And obviously, it's an ongoing situation with small boats. It's a national issue. How are you building this into your homeless strategy for Plymouth?
Councillor Ricketts, I suggest you go and do some training on asylum and refugee. I will send you a list of organisations in the city who will explain to you the difference between asylum and refugee statuses. As someone arriving on a small boat, seeking asylum is an asylum seeker. That's an internationally agreed status. After they are granted status to stay by the government, they become a refugee. and it is 28 days after that, if they have not found housing, that they might need to approach us for homelessness duties, but not all will be entitled to that, depending on their journey. So we already built it in. We're not going to change it. I would be interested to know what you think is a fair number. However, you can't answer that question.
Right, Councillor Watkins, next.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm not quite sure who's actually responsible, but I'll try Councillor Coker. It concerns the landing stage at Mountbatten that takes the ferry from Mountbatten to the Barbican. It has been out of action for many months. They had to have a small ferry rather than a large ferry. The small ferry only takes 12 passengers, which is not sufficient during the summer months when we've got busy events on. And the ferrymen are doing a marvellous job going backwards and forwards. But we need to see the big ferry come back, and we need to see the landing stage repaired or replaced. When will that be, please?
Thank you for that question. It's not me. So you guessed wrong, Councillor Watkins. I believe Councillor Pemberthy is responsible, and will take your question.
I'm responsible for the existing, but not for the solution. We have been looking recently at Mountbatten as a whole. There are a number of different routes in and out of Mountbatten by water, and we're looking to make sure that the Mountbatten Water Centre is as viable as possible. Rather than maintaining two different landing stages, what we have agreed to do with the Mountbatten Water Centre and the National Marine Park Horizons Programme is to bring together the two provisions with enhanced pontoon facilities that can take the larger boats at the Water Sports Centre, so that everything will be through there on one. It means we have to maintain one, not two, and that one has lots of other uses. It will mean at some point the existing pontoon will be dismantled and moved away, but we won't be doing that until after we've installed the new. The aim is to get that installed over the winter season, ready for next summer. The boat skippers have all been involved in those discussions in order to scope the right sort of pier, and the Catwater Harbour Master has also been involved to ensure that we excavate the right channels to make sure that we have something that is stable, able to last all year long, and be good and help secure the ongoing future of the Water Sports Centre as well.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've got a supplementary. When can we be sure that, how can we be sure that we're going to get proper shelter for people actually using the ferry? Some people use it to go to work, and they need to have a shelter there during the winter months particularly.
I'm led to believe there's a really good cafe at the Water Sports Centre, and I'm sure people would like to support the Water Sports Centre by sitting in the cafe and having a coffee while they're waiting.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Loveridge.
Thank you. My question goes to Councillor Coker. I know you're in demand today, so I'm just wondering if you have a date for me for the double yellow lines at Wolford Lane. Thank you.
I haven't got a date, Councillor Loveridge, but what I have got is 2 weeks ago I sat down with the Highways team to discuss yours and Councillor Beer's issue, and the direction for me, from me, was do it. So I haven't got a date, but when I finish here and when I meet them this week, I will get a date and I will message both of you, but I want to reassure you that I've said do it.
Thank you.
And no, it's Councillor Chris Wood next.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. This is for the Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning and Transport. I have. Will the Executive Member agree or delegate a responsible officer, given how busy it is, to meet with me, school leaders and fellow ward councillors at St Edward's Primary School and Manadon Vale Primary School to discuss how we can improve road safety on Fort Austin Avenue and St Peter's Road. In particular, local residents have asked me to highlight that they have long requested a proper crossing point to be installed at these locations. Will Councillor Coker ensure these are also on his list, please?
Well, I've said yes to everything, Councillor Wood, so I will say yes to meeting with you. It's strange that this comes to full council. I would be more than glad. You don't have to wait for full council to email me and say, Mark, can we meet up? I've got a real issue. The only caveat, Councillor Wood, that I will put, as I said to Councillor Smith, at the moment, finances are really tight. We are working with our road safety team and with Vision Zero Southwest, I'm sure you know about that, to look at ways in which we can find funding for road safety, but more than happy to meet you and bring the officers with me.
Have you got some supplementary? No, thank you. And then Councillor Ian Poyser, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Mark Coker, you can rest easy, don't worry. This is a question for Councillor Bryce-Dell. It's just following off the back of our Plymouth pensioners motion. England has some of the leakiest, most fuel-efficient homes in Europe. I was just wondering what, as a council, we're doing to promote home insulation, and what options are out there already for householders, and what we're doing in terms of speaking to your new government in terms of trying to promote home insulation.
Thank you for your question, Councillor, and I agree, those issues are inextricably linked, and I'm really excited about some of the proposals the National Government are bringing forward to make sure that retrofitting is at the heart of this programme. Locally, we work very closely with Plymouth Energy Community. There are existing schemes which are available for people or households who earn under a certain threshold to help get them advice and also retrofitting works. There are various organisations in the city that the council was able to pinpoint people towards, but I think Plymouth Energy Community would be top of that list if you have residents who are interested in that. We also work with national government departments on this as well. So we've had money from the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, which is about trying to make sure that those households most at need of that extra investment have that directly. And I'm also involved in a scheme where we're going to be going door to door in the next couple of weeks with Plymouth Energy Community, encouraging certain households that are able to get certain grant funding to do so, looking at things like transitioning away from gas boilers as well. Thank you.
Supplementary? No, thank you. In that case, Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm not entirely sure who my question is going to be for. Could be Councillor Lang or Councillor Bryce-Dell. I'm really concerned about the state of Charles Church. Every time I come into the city centre, past the church, there's lots of weeds and foliage growing out of the masonry work on it. It's there as a monument to remind us all about what happened to Plymouth during World War II. But it's looking very sad, and the whole roundabout is looking very sorry for itself. Can you tell me, please, when you are going to tidy up this site and make good the repairs to the masonry work that's been damaged by foliage? Thank you.
As it's part of the monuments within corporate estate, it's me. The roundabout I've just been checking is on the minimal mow over a year in order to maintain biodiversity with just the edge trimmed. That has been the case for quite a long time now, not just in the last year. In terms of the monument itself, we will be continually checking the corporate estate and doing priority works, and we keep a watch on which are the priority works, and we will do those first. Those change continually because of the weather, and so I'm unable to say at which point we will next be doing work on Charles Church.
Lord Mayor, my supplementary would be in and around the actual state of the roundabout. Although I get it about biodiversity, I truly do. It does look untidy, and it's one of those key things you see as soon as you come through Exeter Street into the city centre. It does look appalling. It's just dry grass and weeds there. There's nothing nice about it. It would be nice that this particular roundabout could be taken care of, Lord Mayor, and a bit more consideration given to it. Thank you.
That was the question.
As someone whose grandmother and many other relatives are remembered there, you will find with relatives there are differing opinions about how graves and memorials should be kept, and there are also differing opinions about how roundabouts should be kept. I will have a discussion with Councillor Briarsdale about the best way to manage that roundabout. However, we will need to do so in the light of the other demands of mowing within the city. If we start mowing that roundabout more frequently, that will mean less time that Councillor Briarsdale has to mow other places, because his teams aren't really magic. They can't split into two and be doing two things at the same time. So we will have a discussion about the prioritisation of that roundabout with other places. I hear what you're saying, but we do need to look at it within a city context, not just within a context of a roundabout in my own ward.
Thank you. And if there are no more questions, it falls for me to say this concludes the business of full council. Thank you, members, for your time and engagement and patience with me. I wish you all and those watching a good evening and hope you all stay safe and well.